Hey everyone, I'm Tom, and welcome to the Orange Chronicles, where I chronicle what I've been up to over the past week or so. And it has been a little bit over a week since the last time I talked to you, but let's go ahead and jump right in and explain why that is the case with the books that I have finished. And I have finally finished Shadows Upon Time, the last book in the Sun Eater saga by Christopher Rocchio. And let's just get this right out of the way. I love this book. I gave it 5 stars. And that does not mean it is a perfect book by any stretch of the imagination. And it's actually a book that part of me is still like, do I really, really love this book, or do I love that it's the end of this series, the end of this series that I absolutely adore? I think with the completion of the series, it's a top 3 series all time for me, which is crazy praise. I have read, some amazing series throughout the years. And that is actually part of the internal conversation I was having with myself. I think if you've been around the channel for a little bit, I really like to rank things. I have my spreadsheet where I have every book I've read since I started keeping track of this back in 2019 when I got back into reading. I have all these books ranked, and it's based on my enjoyment. And, I was kind of having this internal struggle because there are definitely parts about this book that I don't want to say problems with, but I'm just like, I maybe wasn't as enthusiastic about certain parts of it as I thought I would be. But then there are other moments that are just so amazing. And, I asked myself, I was like, you have this very simplistic ranking system. My ranking system is 5 stars, I love it. 4 stars is I really liked it. 3 stars is I liked it. 2 stars is I didn't really like it. And 1 star is I didn't like it. And I just had to ask myself, like, part of the reason you have this ranking is you can just go off that gut feel. You don't need to try to justify all these different things and try to be the most objective person ever. Like, just let your gut and your heart tell you what you think about a book. And so I just kind of had that conversation with myself, and I was like, you know what? I do love this book for all of its flaws and for all of the good that it does. Because, like I said, there are definitely flaws in this book, and I'm still kind of deciding what I want to do. I'm definitely going to talk about it here, but I am thinking of maybe doing kind of like a standalone video for the series, and obviously a lot of it will be about Shadows Upon Time, or maybe there will be some discussions and I can weasel my way into some of those, or I think this is going to be a pretty popular book to talk about, as it's wrapping up the series. But for all of its faults, for everything that does well, I just love the book, and it's one that since I have finished it, I have not stopped thinking about. And one thing, I have finally gotten to the point where I can, I've gone out and I've listened to what other people have said about it and everything. And it's funny, it's one of those books where I'm hearing some people say they don't like this part about it, but then I'm hearing the exact opposite from other people, which I think just, shows that there are different aspects of this series that so many different people appreciate. For me, I just loved it. And there are decisions that are made in it that I didn't like, but I still think so much of it still fits in the world. And there's just so much about it that is great. I'm trying to think of ways how to talk about some of this without, spoiling anything, because that's the last thing I want to do with the end of this series like this. And what I will say is, I think it delivers on a lot of the messaging that the series has really been building up to. Maybe not from the beginning, but definitely in especially Disquiet Gods, it kind of takes a lot of that and ramps it up. It has a mission, and I think it accomplishes it. It asks a lot of very poignant questions, not just about the universe, but like the human condition and things like that throughout it. I do think there's a lot of maybe unreliable narration going on in this book, and I think it's there are some things, there are some fan theories out there that I think hold a lot of weight when you like really think about some of the things that are going on. And Rockio has said that this might be the end of Hadrian's journey, but it's definitely not the end of this universe. After finishing this book, for me, if we never got anything more from Hadrian, that's fine. I could live with that and just enjoy this saga for what it has been. But man, for me, it really just doesn't feel like it's the end of him. And maybe that won't be through this whole story. This is not a spoiler. This is literally from the beginning of the series. This is Hadrian writing down his story. And maybe we see Hadrian, but it's from other characters' perspective. Characters maybe we know, maybe characters we don't know. But it just feels like it's not going to be the last we see of Hadrian Marlowe. And I honestly would think I would be happier with that. I'm also like, I could be completely satisfied right now if another book never came out in this series. I think this book delivers in enough that I'm happy, and that I don't like need more. I want more. I desperately want more, but it's not something that I that I feel like absolutely has to happen for like the series or anything like that. So there are definitely some like big things that happen in this book that are things that I wanted to happen. Some reveals that I think change, like when you look back at some of the things that have been going on throughout the entire course of the series. And I think all of it just works so well. So, the more I'm talking about it now, I think being able to talk about spoilers is very important. I will say, and I'll be curious if you have read this, if you really did feel like this book was kind of sectioned, there's like a beginning section, kind of a middle section, and then an ending section. That's something maybe I kind of picked up a little bit, and I'd be curious on if you did as well. And obviously, I would love to hear what you think about it. If you want to talk spoilers, obviously hit me up in the Discord. We can talk spoilers in there. You can spoil things. Hide spoilers in Discord very easily. So definitely, it's linked in the description. We can talk there for sure. Or in the comments, just type spoiler out, hit enter in a couple spaces, and then feel free to go wild down there. So if you are down in the comments, maybe be a little bit cautious before you start just reading any comment, but please do just mention spoiler if you do want to talk spoilers, because I think there is so much to discuss. I think this is a series that is rife for discussion. I think it explores some of those deeper things, and I'm so glad that I got to go to the gala, be a part of all of that, experience that, and it makes this series hold probably an even more special place to me because it has ramifications outside of just the story itself. And that is just something so special. And I'm glad I did catch up and I got to be a part of all of that. And to me, it does deliver. This is probably my second favorite Sun Eater book, I think. It is a 5-star. I love it. Howling is probably, I'm trying to think of my ranking off the top of my head. It's probably Howling Dark, Shadows Upon Time. It's crazy to say this because when I first finished it, I was more down on it. But I think Kingdoms of Death has really crept its way up and maybe has surpassed Demon in White to be my third favorite, which would then go Demon in White, Ashes of Man, or probably Disquiet Gods, Ashes of Man, Empire of Silence, something like that. And I think if you had told me when I finished Kingdoms of Death that I would move it up my rankings like I have, I don't know if I would believe you. I will sit down and formally get my ranking kind of more settled and firm. I'll say firm because I can change my mind whenever I want to. But yeah, this is just a top series all time for me. It means a lot to me. The journey has been just absolutely epic. Everything about it. If you haven't read Sun Eater and you've listened to me talk about it for this long, if you are still curious about it, let's talk about it. There's reasons to and to not read it because not one thing is for everybody. And I know Hadrian can be a tiresome character, especially early on. But there is a cosmic leap to me between books 1 and 2, and not just the story, but the writing and the characters and just everything about it. I think really does take a big step up. Obviously, the second book is my favorite, so that maybe I'm a little biased there as well. But yeah, that is Sun Eater. It's been a crazy 2025 for me with Sun Eater and everything. And I'm looking forward to probably reading. There are some of the short stories I haven't read yet, so I'll still probably read some of those, or I want to read those in 2026. I don't think they're anything super long or anything like that. And then I know Rockio has his kind of Conan style fantasy story. I think it's Adaman. Actually, I don't know if it's more fantasy, sci-fi, how that leans, but I would like to read those at some point as well, probably in 2026. So this is not the end of Rockio, and then obviously whenever his new stuff comes out in 2027, I think is the tentative date for his new trilogy, his fantasy trilogy. I'll be on board for that as well. So that is definitely the end of a chapter for Sun Eater, but it is not the end of Sun Eater. At least I think. I don't know. He says in this book, we're definitely going to get more. So we will see what happens there. But that then brings me on to what I am still reading and working on. And this is another big release from the year of 2025. And I have started Empire of the Dawn. And I've just got to say, I have made it, 30 seconds into this audiobook. I just haven't had a chance to read too much of it yet. I have talked to a few people. Well, I talked to 2 people about it and then have heard a few other people talk about it as well. And it sounds like something very interesting. And I'm saying interesting in a cautious way happens with the ending of this book. And so I'm really curious on what that is and how I'm going to feel about it. I know some people maybe are not too happy with that. They still think the book is good, but there's something that happens at the end that has gotten some people, I don't know, ruffled some feathers. I don't know what the best way to put it is. And now I'm very, very curious to see what it is. I also think going from Empire of the Dawn after Shadows Upon Time is going to be such a drastic shift. It is funny. It is somebody recanting, telling the story again to you, but, fantasy to sci-fi, often opposite ends of the spectrum there. So I'm very curious to get there. Obviously, I've really, really enjoyed the first 2 books in this. So I'm hoping that this one can stick the landing. I have famously said endings are overrated. which I still kind of stand by, but that doesn't mean an ending can't ruin some other things, especially if it goes back and changes things fundamentally that have happened in the story. So we will see. I'm just so curious on what it could be, and we'll find out soon. And then the other thing I'm working on is Grand Conspiracy, and that is a little bit problematic because the Saturday that just passed, the 13th, I was supposed to be in a discussion on Sylvia at Library Unbounded's channel, and I think there was a little bit of a miscommunication there. I had said that I wasn't going to be able to. They thought I still was going to be able to. And that is why I hadn't finished this yet. So this is still something I'm working on. This bookmarker is not in the right place. I'm much further into the book at this point. But I just mentioned that to give that a shout out. If you want to hear a discussion on this book in particular, you can find that. And hopefully I'll link it in the description and everything. And you know what? We'll just go ahead and jump right into the other stuff because I didn't watch anything this week. No comics or anything either. And I'll talk quickly about the reason why I missed this discussion was I was competing in a Strongman, a charity event that they do every year. It's like a toy drive for kids, but it is also a record breaker show, which just means the point of the show. There's 4 events, and the goal is pretty much to break state and national records. And I was lucky enough to break one of the North Carolina state records, and just got to do some cool stuff. Running out of steam here, I can't talk. If I remember, I'll put a video of my lift in. It's an axle clean and press. It was 320 pounds. I know there are people who can probably do more in the state. Actually, I think I probably could have done more, just with the format of the event. I just wanted to kind of secure the record, and my original goal was to go a little bit heavier, probably closer to like 345, but I kind of just played it safe to get the record, which is fine. I have the record, and I know I just said that there are obviously people who can probably do more out there, but it is still cool to just kind of have that record anyway. And then I had my first session during this competition where I used tacky on Atlas stones, and that just made them so easy. I just barely missed a 400-pound stone. I just kind of didn't execute properly. The way you do it is you put them on top of your legs, and I just tried to bring my leg under too soon, kind of knocked it out of my own hands, and by that point my tacky had kind of gotten messed up and everything, and I couldn't repick it. But knowing that I have that kind of stone in me is very cool, and it makes me want to like really try to load a giant one, something super heavy like 400 plus pounds, I think would be super cool. So that is why I missed this conversation, and why I'm still not done with this, because I kind of pushed it off knowing that I really wanted to catch up on Sun Eater and really focus on that. And I took a little bit of a break from this. So if you, like I said, if you're interested in that conversation, definitely go check it out. Hopefully I will finish this and then jump right into what is the next book. I've got it right here. It is Peril's Gate. And hopefully I can finish Peril's Gate. And I think that's a super long book as well, and be a part of that next conversation. We'll see, scheduling and all that's the fun stuff. And then the only other thing I want to mention is I will, I don't know when they're releasing it, but I did talk with Andrew and Jesse at It's Lit Book Reviews about the Wheel of Time. And we talked about Lord of Chaos, which is book 6, my second favorite Wheel of Time book. And we had a great conversation on that as they make their way through it. And Jesse, this is his first time reading this, and Andrew, this was his second time reading it, but he only read up to this point the last time. So he will also be a fresh reader as we kind of go through it. And it's fun because obviously I've read it all. I get to talk to them about it, and I think I like to think I have a pretty good poker face when they try to get some information out of me. But there's one point in that one where they make me break, and it was funny to me. So those are all things that you can find here on YouTube. Definitely let me know how your reading has been, what you've watched, done, any of that fun stuff down below. Fun Christmas plans. Hope the holidays are going well, and they're not here yet, but I hope all that fun stuff is going well for all of you guys, as it is for me here. But that is all for me. And remember, as always, read what you want when you want.